Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the history of another iconic guitar brand, and this time we're going to be going back into the world of acoustics and talking about possibly the most iconic acoustic brand. I am of course talking about Martin guitars. Now Martin has one of the longest histories of any guitar brand, so I'm going to do my best to still keep this concise and just hit on the key points. But to start off we need to go back all the way to 1833. And it's there that we find a man by the name of Christian Frederick Martin Sr. He was a German who emigrated to the US to get himself a bit more freedom and escape the Germans' tradecraft guilds and the system that they worked in. He brought old world luthier skills to the US, and it would be somewhere in America that he'd set up his first shop. But in 1938, he would move his business to Nazareth, Pennsylvania, and that's where the company still operates from today, and that town has become very heavily associated with acoustic guitar heritage in the US. In the mid-1800s, around the 1840s, Martin pioneered an X-bracing technique for his instruments. Basically what X-bracing is an internal support structure in the shape of an X that is within the guitar, and that both strengthens the guitar and shapes the way that an acoustic guitar sounds. This is a foundational design in acoustic guitars, and it's one that is still used by plenty of luthiers even to still today. In the 1850s, he would introduce the size 0 concert size models. This was an early part of standardizing body sizes that would go on to influence Martin later down the line and influence their later models. We jump forward now to the early 1900s, as in 1916 or 17, the company would introduce the first dreadnought acoustic shape. Dreadnought, of course, being a very popular now body style for an acoustic due to the sound that it gives, the rich and powerful sound. These first dreadnoughts, although being built by Martin, were built by Martin for the Oliver Ditson Company and sold by them. The Oliver Ditson Company was a major music publication house. I'm talking sheet music here, and they were a major player in the late 19th and early 20th century. In 1929, the company would introduce the standardized 14-fret neck. It was first introduced on orchestra models, but then adopted across the lineup. Now, we spoke about how in 1916 and 17 that Martin were making dreadnoughts. However, they wouldn't start producing their own Martin branded dreadnoughts until 1931. This was when the dreadnought shape actually entered Martin's own catalogue. And at this point we're now obviously into the 30s and 40s, which for some people is considered to be Martin's golden era, or at least its most important period in history, as so many of Martin's big, well-known and still produced today models were introduced during this period. So we're talking the OM orchestra models in 1929, D18 and D28 in 1931, the 0018 and 0028 in 1934, and the D54 in 1933. In the post-war era and following on from that, the folk revival era, other models that were introduced included the 015 and the 0015, and they were the mahogany series. That was in the 1940s. And in the 1960s, a number of 12-string models were introduced, including the D1220. And this was heavily driven by the revival of blues and folk music. Now, of course, since the golden era, they have continued to produce more new models. Some of those include the Herringbone HD28, which was released in 1978, the Vintage series in 1995, the Authentic series in 2005, and the X series in the late 90s. Now, of course, Martin played a huge part in the adoption of the steel string acoustic and really was a defining player in the modern acoustic sound. Now, of course, I haven't touched on it as much and I focus more on models in this video, but of course, especially throughout the 20th century, expanded their manufacturing capacity quite a lot and grew as a company throughout this time. And even up to this day, the company still remains to be family run and owned, with Chris Martin IV now being the current executive chairman. Recently, of course, they've celebrated two fairly substantial anniversaries. In 2008, it was their 175th anniversary, and they celebrated their 190th in 2023. And of course, it will be the big 200 in 2033. Of course, today the brand is still going strong as ever and is still highly considered one of the best acoustic makers of all time. And over the years, they've produced hundreds, if not thousands, of different models, all of which I haven't been able to cover in this video. I just wanted to keep this one short and concise and just give you a little bit of a background on where the company came from, its roots, and where the important models sort of started to spring up. So hopefully I've done that. But I think that's going to just about do us for today. So let me know down in the comments whether you own a Martin, what your thoughts are if you've ever played one. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.